Creating what is the safe space. So a group of scientists actually came together, led by Johan Rockström, who is in the documentary that Kyrie mentioned, and said, here are the 9 things we can measure to be able to tell us whether we are in a safe space or not. And the 9 of the 9 things, only 1 is climate change. It's also got to do with our land use, it's got to do with fresh water, it's also got to do with ocean acidification, it's also got to do with nitrogen and phosphorus levels. A lot of nitrogen and phosphorus are put into the soil as fertilizers. It's also got to do with novel entities, which are chemicals that are released into the air, and also, other entities. So I think ozone layer is one of them as well. So 9 things you can measure. That's the diagram.
So it's there. You can see the 9 things that are measured. So it's not just climate change, as Nancy mentioned. You've got biodiversity loss. Yeah. So that's loss of fauna and flora. I think a lot of extinct. So in the context of Malaysia, for instance, the Malayan tiger. So all these things are either endangered or extinct. You're talking about ozone depletion, you're talking about atmospheric aerosol loading, chemical pollution, ocean acidification. All these things are related. I think what Nashi is saying is that these are different systems that sustain the planet. So it's not just the global warming. If all these things are out of whack, then we are out of whack.
So you were telling me earlier about the deodorant use.
Yeah.
So you see ozone layer and aerosol is still safe. And I think it's very important in this diagram to say that when the first description of the planetary boundaries came out in 2009, only 3 boundaries were crossed. This is from late last year. We've already crossed 6 boundaries. So it's actually very, very alarming that we are rapidly destroying a lot of what we call the Earth system resilience.
So the cerita yang Nancy nak sampaikan tadi, who here is born before 1970 or 1970s and before? So you're not uncomfortable, I will raise my hand also. So quite a lot of you born 1970 and before 1970. Do you remember in the mid-1980s, we were told, and those days there was no social media, we were told on TV, in schools and in newspapers that there was a hole in the sky. Do you remember? We all remember this. There was a hole in the sky. I remember somebody coming to my school in 1986 or something like that, because they discovered in 85 that there was a hole in a layer called the ozone layer. You all remember this, right? It's crazy. And we know what the ozone layer is. It's a layer that protects us from UV, in particular UVB light from the sunlight. And there was a hole there especially because we were releasing certain chemicals into the atmosphere. And one of the big culprits was something called CFC. We all remember this, right? CFC, fluorocarbon. And for us, normal people, the thing that we used, which was CFC, was deodorant. So we had this dilemma of how do we look after our body odor, because suddenly we cannot use CFC anymore and we have to move to roll-on. And we all did this, and as Tanshi said, of all the boundaries that we have crossed, ozone depletion is the only one that's reversed. It's the only one that's reversed because we decided not to use spray deodorant anymore.